On the way back home from Vermont, the single-engine plane that pilot Mark Maltz and his friend and instructor Jared Healy were flying went down. Air traffic control called Jared's wife Elizabeth in New Jersey to tell her what had happened.
Hello, this is Elizabeth speaking. Can I help you?
And they said, well, Jerry encountered ice. We lost him on radar. And
What?
he went down in the mountains.
Oh, my God.
And then it dawned on me that there was a really big possibility that he wasn't coming back at all.
As usual, the all-volunteer Civil Air Patrol was called in to help search for the missing plane. Colonel Robert Johnson was in charge.
If an airframe is intact, if the weather is relatively mild, and if there are no injuries, there is still only a 50% chance of survival. Plot these for me, if you will. Let me know if they're 49. The impact of a crash, or even a hard landing, will activate the emergency locator transmitter. We can pick it up on our direction-finding equipment, both on the ground and from the air, but we weren't receiving the normal emergency locator transmitter sound from the down aircraft. The aircraft that has gone down looks about the size of a subcompact car, and below tree line, rarely can you see anything. Of course, it was winter, so it became dark very early.
They said they had to stop the search because of the weather. And I just continued to wait and continued to wait, and he didn't return. And then I started thinking about all the things that he used to say when he used to do rescues, which echoed through my mind the whole time was people who crashed in the mountains were never found. They were just found when the snow thawed out.
Welcome to Killington, Bear Mountain, Outer Limits.
Around noon the next day, Scott Frundlish and Fred Mallett happened to be skiing the trails at Vermont's Killington Mountain.
We were just getting our last runs. We were going to knock off at lunchtime.
Let's rest up a second.
We decided to take the Juggernaut Trail, which was, looked like a very easy trail. We didn't want to get hurt or anything.
Take a break for a second here. And work out.
Somebody yelling up there.
Yeah, I just heard it.
We heard somebody yelling for help.
Hello? Hello!
It was almost as if I was imagining myself hearing it. That's how faint it was, but we did hear it.
We couldn't tell where it was really coming from. We just knew it was coming from the right side of the trail.
Whoa, where are you?
And we decided to go in the woods, but before we went in, we set our skis down right where we entered, so it was a good marker.
A guy comes down behind us, and we tell him to let the ski patrol know that we heard somebody yelling for help and just to follow our tracks in.
Where are you? Keep yelling.
We kept trying to maintain voice contact to lead us there.
We're getting closer.
The snow was just about knee-deep, and with ski boots on, it was very difficult.
Keep yelling. We're almost there.
Ski Patrol member Bill Belmonte responded to the call for help.
At first, I didn't hear anything, but I did see the 2 sets of skis sticking in the snow and tracks leading into the woods. And I just figured that some skiers had gone off trail and couldn't find their way back.
What's going on up there? What happened? All right, we're coming.
We were that close now we could hear, that he was in a plane crash and that, he wasn't alone. And it kind of got our adrenaline pumping, and, now we were freaking out, a little bit. It's like, wow, I can't believe this.
It's up in the tree. I see on top of the ridge.
I could see the plane wing caught up in a big branch, and I could see all the trees were knocked down. They were all burned out. And I looked right below the tree, and I could see him standing there.
Do you see me yet?
He was just really glad to see us. I just remember that big smile he had.
Pretty bad.
He was hugging me, and I didn't want to hug him back. I didn't know if anything was broken on him.
How long you guys been out here? Overnight.
He was covered with soot, he had all the black all over him. He looked like a mess, basically, but a happy mess.
Come Come on, I see it.
The other guy was sitting down,
Burnt real bad.
and he was so glad to see us. He was crying.
This guy's in bad shape.
Both of them had pretty serious burns and maybe some very severe frostbite.
Thank you for finding us.
I thought it was unbelievable that they survived the night before. It was a very cold night, and they were all burned up and busted up. They were lucky to be alive.
What's your name? Mark. Mark.
We began to talk and introduce ourselves, and I remember Mark saying something like, you know, you get to go to heaven for this.
We got ski patrol here, guys.
Once I got to the top of the knoll, I could see the fuselage of the plane and the two passengers. And I then became very excited, saying, this is it. These are the two people that everyone's been looking for.
Dispatch, this is 107. I am with the wreckage of the plane that went down yesterday afternoon. Both passengers are alive.
Considering they had fallen from the sky and spent the night in the woods, they were in excellent shape.
My snowmo is parked.
I'll never forget that phone call. I was just so relieved and couldn't believe it that I just kind of fell to my knees and thanked God.
Jared and Mark were taken to Rutland Regional Medical Center, where they were both treated for burns and frostbite. Jared had also suffered a broken wrist.
I just had to touch him. I couldn't believe he was there.
What about you all the time up here, Phil? What you told me. To be positive, and because of that, we made it.
Just so glad to have you. All I could say was, you were really on a mountain. You came off a mountain. And he says, I'm here. I'm here.
Mark's frostbite was more serious, and his burns more severe. Mark's girlfriend, Teresa Mitchell, came to see him.
I wouldn't have recognized him, except he looked up at me and smiled. He still had the same smile. Better than you.
We could never figure out why we lived at all. Shouldn't have. I've seen crashes where there was a lot less impact, where there was no fire, where a lot less things went wrong, and the people did not live.
I decided to take the airplane straight in as slow as possible in anticipation of the crash. I attempted to go between trees and take the wings off the airplane to leave my fuel load behind me.
One wing went off, the other one didn't. So when I smelled the gas, I said, oh my God, we're in deep trouble. There was nothing but smoke and flames and burning, and I could feel my skin shrivel.
The right wing had bent backwards and blocked our exit from that side.
We had just filled the plane up with gas, and the one right tank was right below us.
We survive a crash, we survive a fire, and we're basically going to freeze to death out here if they didn't come and find us soon.
I was cold immediately, and I only had a T-shirt on. So Jerry gave me the hooded sweatshirt. When I put it on, he looked at me and he says, oh God, don't die, don't die.
Although Mark is scarred from his burns and both he and Jared suffered some nerve damage from frostbite, they have otherwise fully recovered.
To say it's a religious experience doesn't do it justice. It was miraculous, but all the good luck and all the things that happened in our favor wouldn't have meant anything if it hadn't been for the guys that trudged in there and found us.
Uh-oh.
How do you say to somebody, you know, my whole life I owe to you now?
Nice to meet you again.
There's just no real easy way to repay that.
Hey, how are you? Going? Pretty good. You guys look great.
They took the extra effort, and I will be forever grateful to them.
Hi, Fred.
I think they're wonderful people. I think it takes a lot to do what they did. And I'm eternally grateful.
Mark and Teresa were subsequently married and are expecting their first child in December.
The days that used to rush by don't rush by anymore. I always get the opportunity to look at the sky the trees and grass and to look at people differently. It made it easier for me to go out of my way for other people. So it's given me a lot more joy back to my life.
Next.
911 emergency.
It scares you because you don't know what's happening to her. And there's